answer each question. The questions have been submitted by the public and screened by the League of Women Voters. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for closing remarks. Ask you to please hold your applause and refrain from any comments during the forum, and please take a moment and do the thing with your cell phone. I think I did. For opening statements, the order has been randomly selected, and then we'll rotate through the order of who answers each question first. And so Emily Horton, candidate for position 5, is the leadoff batter. Are you ready to roll? Okay. What is your experience with public education?
Oh wait, they have to give opening remarks.
I'm sorry. Opening remarks.
Opening remarks. Okay.
In which you can say what your experience is.
My name is Emily Horton. I am a mother to 3 in the sister school district. I have one in 5th grade, 6th grade, and 9th grade. I was raised in rural Eastern Oregon and attended college in the University of San Diego, graduate school at Colorado State University. I am very excited to be here to listen to the questions that you all have, and excited for the opportunity to serve our sisters community. I think this is a very, very special place, and I feel really lucky to have landed here through a pretty circuitous route. I think that my experience in policy development, budgetary work in public health, and evaluation, both like program evaluation and staff evaluation, are really applicable in a school board position. And I've been through a lot of very difficult situations running or working as a public health person in the last decade. Thank you.
And Edie, you are next.
Hello, I'm Edith Jones, and I have lived in Sisters for over 34 years, and I have a background of probably every level of education, from early childhood all the way up to teaching in college. I have a BA from Washington State University in recreation and dance, and a minor in physical education, and an adult education, a master's in adult education from Oregon, the University of Oregon, Oregon State University, excuse me. And I have been on the board for 5 years and have enjoyed it very much.
I wrote notes, don't mind me if I read a little bit, I get a little nervous. So. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. I'm grateful to everyone who was able to come tonight. My name is Jamieson, and I'm running for position 1. My husband John and I have 3 daughters in sister schools. Currently, we have a daughter in each of our district schools, elementary, middle, and high school, which has deeply rooted us in our community and our district. This, of course, also means that I'm very well versed in the traffic patterns of the drop-off and pickup, which I know Emily is as well. I hold a master's degree in higher education administration, and I have over 20 years of experience in education administration. I'm excited to be here and to answer it and to allow you all to get to know me better.
Okay. And since you each touched a little bit on your experience with public education, I'm going to combine the first 2 questions. What is your own experience with public education, and what motivated you to run for the school board? And Megan, then I'll go back to you.
I am a proud product of public school. Like I said, my daughters, all 3, they attend Sisters Public School. So we deliberately chose Sisters and our school district because of the school and the community, and we really wanted to be part of this and our phenomenal faculty and staff that we have in our top-notch schools. I wanted to run for school board because I have a passion to help our schools. I have the education and the experience to lead us forward, and I believe that with that experience and that education, I can help guide us into the future.
Edie?
I have taught in 2 different districts in public education, in a school district. And then in moving to Central Oregon, ended up working in adult education where I was working with parents of birth through 3-year-olds. So we were preparing young children for their time in public schools. I have 4 children and have always appreciated the value of really good teachers and the opportunities that they have had.
So I would start with saying, like I said, I went to a really tiny, my graduating class was 20 in rural Eastern Oregon. And through that experience, I was really nervous to go to college, thinking I would be, out of place with, all of these kids with AP classes. But what I came to find out was the value of my education was based in really great teachers. I was challenged by amazing teachers and a community that wrapped around me as a student. I was challenged in many ways, from public speaking to sports and all of those things that made me who I was. And when I went to college, I got there and I was super nervous and thought, I can't do this. And then I could. And that was because of all of those challenges and experiences that I had. I was motivated to run because, well, my husband kept telling me, well, you should run for school board, you'd be great at that. But also I really want to give back to the community. And I think that there are ways that I can't right now. I can't be at the school at 3 o'clock every day to coach a sport, but I can be there and give back with policy development, budgetary, and evaluation of the superintendent, which is something I have a lot of experience in from my job in public health, where I'm a program manager, and deal with these types of issues. A different subject matter, but definitely applicable to this work.
Okay. You nailed the time perfectly. This question will go to Edie first, and that is, how will the board collaborate with community developers to recruit, hire, and retain high-quality teachers who can't afford to live here?
That's a very important question, and one that I think that is probably one of the biggest problems that our school district has. And so I think that the board needs to be aware of whatever they can do, or however, in whatever avenues possible, who they can reach out to whether it's the city government, the city council, the mayor, anybody, to find out how we can help in addressing that problem. Also, the school board has recently had one workplace housing. We set aside money for 2 of those kinds of positions. We now have 1 of them filled, and hopefully we will do 1 more soon.
Okay. Emily, it's over to you.
So, yes, it's a very important topic of where are people going to live and be a part of the community in which they're in the schools. I think it's really important, and something that is unique and sets us apart as our community here. I know I feel that with my kids, and knowing that, someone has a place to land is really important. I think, again, I don't know all the rules and regulations and funding streams that exist for workplace housing. In a previous time, I lived in Jackson Hole and was the recipient of workforce housing there. It was very, very expensive, as you can imagine, so I was able to work and live in the community in public health. So I know how important it is to encourage that and help people find, and I think you can be creative about it. It's not necessarily working just with developers for like large scale developments, but also reaching out and letting people in the community know this is a need and how can we fill this together? What can we do to find places for families and people to find a place to be?
Maybe.
I agree. This is probably one of our biggest issues that we have in our community. If we are to grow, as we're expected to grow, we need to recruit high quality teachers that want to come and have their kids be in our schools. So there's a lot of things that go into that. I think working closely with the city to ensure that there's zoning that's appropriate for whether it's multi-use properties. We also have affordable homes for our faculty and administrators to live and work in Sisters. That's what we want. We want their kids to go here too. We want them to invest in our community because we love it so much. Whether it's workforce housing, I don't know if that's just a stopgap. I don't know how long-term that can really be, if it's funded by the school district. I'm not sure how that would work long-term. I think going to community members is great. I know Jeff Hughesman posted that he needed housing, and the community was able to jump up and find a place for him to live. Whatever it was an apartment on their property, and the community wants to help. And it's a matter of finding those places for the faculty and staff to recruit the people that we want to be here.
And Megan, this question will go to you first. Do you see yourself primarily as a representative of the community or as a representative of the school or the school district?
As a board member, I see myself as a representative of the students. I think that we need to, or the students and the parents, because I think when it comes down to it, that's who we're serving. And we need to listen to them to make sure that we pay attention. Going into the classroom, I volunteer both at, all three schools, but primarily in the middle school. It was Teacher Appreciation Week this week, and we were there a lot. But seeing the kids, knowing them, talking to them, knowing their names is huge. And knowing what their needs may be is critical. So as a school board member, I think my biggest role would be a representative of our student body.
Emily, same question to you.
So community or school, what are you representing? I think that those are really hard to say. Again, I think you have a responsibility as a school board member when you're out in the community to explain what's going on, because people probably aren't at a lot of school board meetings and understanding that. So I think out in the community, it's really important to be a representative of the school and represent the school well. Explaining how things work and being kind of that liaison between the community, parents, and students and the school, and those limitations that are sometimes placed on the school, or challenges and opportunities that people aren't aware of because they're not in those meetings and those spaces. And so having the ability to understand that and liaison in the community, I think, is super important. Like Megan said, I think the students are the heart of this whole thing, and it's very difficult for us to know what they all need. But I think representing families that maybe can't be as involved. I was a single mom at one point and raising my two daughters completely on my own. I couldn't be there to volunteer in a classroom. I couldn't be there, at some of those activities. And there's families that want to be involved, but they just don't have the time or ability to make that happen. And so trying to represent those voices as well is really important.
The board is there because we have students, and every decision we make has to really keep the kids in mind. I feel that my role, without having any children in the district, is more representing, is reaching out to the community and talking to people, finding out what their needs are, what they are hoping will happen with school, finding out what their questions are. We have to be very aware of what the kids need. And we rely a lot on our superintendent to help us know that. He is the one who is in charge of all that happens in the buildings and in the classrooms. So we really are a representative of both, but I think that in many ways we primarily represent the community and the needs, the questions, and what the public is asking for.
Thank you, Edie. Emily, this next question is for you to start with. What do you think are the education gaps or weaknesses in our district currently, and what changes would you make?
So the this is a really hard question, and I've been thinking about this quite a lot as I'm, walking through the world. I think one of the biggest issues that I see is literacy, and I think a lot of that comes out of COVID and kids, being behind from that. I know my younger daughter, really struggled with that, and I think bringing kids out and having them be able to read is like a foundational skill that we have to have and get kids up to speed. We can't read a math question if we can't read, and we can't understand social studies in a passage if we can't read. So without that foundational skill, the literacy skill, I think, that's something we have to focus on. I've thought a lot about technology, so that's another one on the list, is how do we use technology for our families and our students to the best of our ability. And I worry that we spend a lot of time putting our kids in front of screens to learn reading, learn math through these pathways, when one-on-one with an adult would be a benefit. So one of the things I'd like to see more is less of this computer-based learning, although that's really important too, but when we see kids that are having literacy problems, make sure that we're finding a way to help identify that and get them with, a tutor or an aide or their parents and let them know that they need that extra help.
And Edie, you're next with us.
One of the things I have enjoyed most being on board is hearing what the teachers are doing and how kids are progressing, and having the reports from the principals of schools of the activities and the how kids are progressing, what they are working on, and what they are really excelling at. And we can be very proud of our school district, I think. The area that I would love to see more emphasis on, and that is primarily because that's a big part of my my current background, is early childhood, and making sure kids are ready when they do get to kindergarten, for being able to then move on into the upper grades. And that does not mean that they need to have a whole lot of academic skills yet, but they need to have the ability to know how to sit in class, how to take directions from teachers, and a lot of work can be done. We've had the preschool promise in our school district, which is wonderful, and we just need more of that.
Megan,
Sure.
what do you think are the educational gaps or weaknesses in our district currently, and what changes would you make?
I think our school district's doing an amazing job. I think our kids are engaged, they're excited to be there, and they're doing really well. Our test scores overall have improved slightly in math between 22, 23, and the 23, 24 school year, but we did see a drop in both English and science. So there's room for improvement there, just on a very basic level. And we need to, if we want to prepare our students for the future, then we need to ensure that they're meeting those basic benchmarks. I think the teachers having one-on-one teacher time, I think, is critical. I think keeping class sizes small is incredibly important. And I know that's a priority of the current school board and the superintendent. I think outside of early education, which I agree is critical, I think the other thing that we need to focus on is increasing our opportunities for both AP classes. We don't offer that many for more advanced students. We also really could enhance our technology offerings and our for schools that aren't on the pathway to go to four-year educations, for universities and colleges. So I think opening up those opportunities, reaching out to the community and the relationships that we have to expand those options is really important.
And you can carry on with this one, Megan. In anticipation of reductions in federal funding, how are you going to ensure service levels remain the same?
It's a big question, and I know recently received information about funding being even less than that, and it's disappointing. We also, there's the uncertainty with the federal government, what funds we get. There's lots of things we just don't know. And as the budget committee is working on finalizing their budget for the 25-26 year, they are having to make projections on things that numbers they're trying to guess. The state, we don't get the funding until July. So trying to predict these things is a challenge. I think, as I've said, a priority is low class size and having the teachers connect with the students. I think we have a really great team on our budget committee, and how that works out, it's going to be, it's a bit unknown at this point until we have those final numbers. So being creative and having some solutions, multiple solutions on the table, so that when it does do get those final numbers, we're able to make those decisions that have the least impact on the classroom.
Okay, thank you. And Edie, you next.
Would you repeat those?
In anticipation of reductions in federal funding, how are you going to ensure that service levels remain the same?
I don't know that we can. However, that is the role of the board and also the superintendent to do the best they can. We have a wealth of hands-on kinds of education in our district. And there are lots of volunteers in our city that are willing and able to help in those roles. So perhaps reaching out more to the public to fill in gaps where it may have been areas that we were paying for, may be needed. We really have no idea what we are going to end up with. And being on the budget committee is part of the role of the school board member. And so looking at the budget and guessing along with board chair and the budget chair is part of our job too. We get lots of information from the superintendent, and you take all of that into consideration, and you do your very best you can, and you are creative. You provide, one of our roles is providing creative ideas and suggestions, and the superintendent will then take those to see what they can do.
And Edie, the next question will go to you
Oh,
first.
wait.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. You should have worn a red shirt or something, so that's.
So budgetary is something that I'm really familiar with in my role in public health. My programs are over a $2 million budget, which isn't huge in comparison to the school, but for a small program, there's a lot of moving parts there. So I fully understand the difficulty also, as you might imagine, with public health, unknown funding and major cuts and changes are coming every day. I am fully aware of how difficult it is to cut staff and programs, and have a lot of experience in assessing and figuring out what it has the least impact and what would have the greatest impact. So I feel pretty confident that, that's something that I, could do. So I think maintaining the classroom is really the most important thing. And I agree with Edie as well, in that we have a strong community, and that's one of the things that sets ourselves apart. Utilizing mechanisms even as simple as the nugget to get information out there are great ways to ask for help and, bring the community together. It's really easy to get upset about all the things that are going on outside, but if we can focus inward on our town and our communities and the way that we're special, and kind of try not to get so panicked about the rest of what's going on, I think it can really pull us through some difficult times.
Okay, and then the next question to you, Edie, is how would you ensure school safety?
How would I ensure school safety? That's a very good question. And I don't know if I have a real answer other than that our principals and our superintendent and our teachers need to be on top of every possibility that could happen, and to make preparations for some of the what ifs. There, that may be drills by the kids, that might be extra support by building something around our schools, but I think that the main thing is they need to be aware of the possibilities and what they need to be thinking about and be prepared ahead of time. And not taken by surprise if at all possible.
Emily? School safety.
So I think school safety is really important, and I think it's a fine line between overreaction and making the kids scared. I mean, I've seen some situations where my kids are coming home more concerned about things that are happening and not feeling prepared because this is an out of control situation. So I think it's a really fine line, and one of my programs that I work in is emergency preparedness, so I think a lot about being prepared and making sure that we have the tools in place and really think through what that means to have school safety. So I don't necessarily think it's, making huge fences around our school and locking our kids in or out, but I do think it's about having awareness of what those threats are, and then recognizing them and then trying to have a plan in place for when something happens. Drilling that information with teachers I think is super important, and teaching people how to stay calm and how to de-escalate situations I think is also really important, because things can get out of control really quickly in dangerous situations.
I think the short answer is you can't ensure school safety, and that's frightening, especially as a parent in our schools. I think one of our biggest resources is our faculty and our staff. They have a pulse on those kids, and they know what's going on. They're in there day in and day out, and they're our greatest resource to help prevent something catastrophic, or even just, even if it's a bully situation, they're the ones that are going to be there to see it happening before it happens. And keeping those relationships is what's so critical. We have amazing administrators in our buildings right now, and I think continuing, as we have 2 new administrators coming on next year, building those relationships is going to be really important. But I think having that open dialogue with our students is so important. And believing our students if something comes up, taking threats very seriously is very important, as things can and will come up, whether it's on social media. Our kids are going to be the first ones that are going to see it. It's not going to be the teachers. It's not going to be the parents. It's going to be the kids. So listening to your kids, hearing what they're saying and paying attention, and moving any threats and escalating those to the necessary people to deal with those situations as they can. I think also having a plan is important, right? And having the kids prepare and know what to do is also critical and invaluable.
Megan, the next question is for you to start with. Where do you stand on school vouchers, otherwise known as school choice initiatives, that would allow tax monies to be utilized towards homeschooling or private religious schools?
I disagree with the vouchers. When it comes down to it, to put it frankly, the voucher system directly takes away from our public schools, especially living in a rural community where we do not have many educational options. It is critical that we maintain the highest level of investment in our students. The way school vouchers work is it's a giant pool, and that money would go across the state to private schools or homeschool students, and that comes out of the pool that goes to us. And our students wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to use those resources as some other more metropolitan areas might. There's other things that go into it. I could talk a lot longer than next.
Okay, did you call time?
No, she didn't.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
Okay. All right, Emily?
So I think it's a complex issue. I think that paired with tax credits, the voucher system can be detrimental. I think that it's really hard to decide for families. I think a lot of families are going to go where they want to go and take their kids where they want to take their kids. I think it's important to help families make good choices and make our schools as best we can so people do want to bring their kids here, make them feel safe, have opportunities for their children. But I think the voucher system as it's proposed would not be good for our schools. Although I think that there's arguments on both sides that are valid arguments about people taking, their tax money to support where they want to take their students. And I had the opportunity to send my kid to a private school for a short amount of time. It was a great experience. And as a single mom, being able to do that for a longer period of time or having a voucher to go with that would have been beneficial. So I think it's a hard decision just to say yes or no off the bat. But I think as what we're looking at the proposal to be, I don't agree with those things.
I really think the most important thing for a school district is make sure they are such high quality that that's where they want to send their kids. Because every dollar that is taken away from their district by going for a voucher someplace else means your district has less money. Because your money comes by the number of kids that come to your schools. So I really do not think that vouchers are a good idea. I too had my kids for a while in private school. Never ever did I dream that money would come from the taxpayers to help me pay that. If I needed help, the school itself could help me. But that was my choice. And I really feel we just need to make our school district so good that people don't want to take their kids anyplace else. And that it would be a detriment across the board if the voucher system did so.
How are we doing overall on time?
It is 6:33.
So we'll get through all of our questions, I think. Is everybody doing okay? Carry forward. So the next one starts with Emily. What is your opinion of the use of cell phones and iPads in school?
Well, as I mentioned before, I think technology is a huge, huge challenge for our students and teachers and families as we move through this. I read an article recently about how in the 60s kids got cigarettes to try at school, and that was just part of it at lunch. You were like, try this, do you want Marlboros or do you want whatever? And I think we're gonna look back at the way that we've treated cell phones with a similar mentality, which is, wow, I can't believe that seems completely crazy that we were giving little children this hugely addictive, really difficult to manage, product as youth. I personally hesitantly gave my 14-year-old a phone with a lot of restrictions around it, but I see my younger children with cell phones very early. So I would say I do not support cell phones in the classroom spaces, and I think iPads can be just as detrimental. Even with the computers the kids have now, my kids are often emailing their friends, basically texting, and they're not doing their work when they're supposed to be. So I think it's a very, very difficult thing for kids to know how to self-regulate, and we're putting this huge burden on them when they're not necessarily ready.
I think what Emily just said of the ability of kids to self-regulate is a really important piece of this. And so cell phones at a meeting I was with Kurt not too long ago, and it was part of the discussion of cell phones in the classroom. And he said, but I have my entire life on my phone, as do kids have, and parents. So as they get into high school, perhaps there can be a little more freedom, but really it's more of a classroom management situation, I believe, than it is a regulation of no cell phones. I am not in favor of screen time for young kids at all. And feel that it should be, as much, screen time should be delayed as long as possible. However, at some point when they are seeing all adults use their cell phones and kids are in middle school and high school, and they are using them the same way as their calendar and as their place to gather information, there may be a place for them. Not for texting, not for communication, not for social media, but for some of the pieces that they might need. So it is very much a classroom management situation.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's, I think it's hard to have a blanket policy because I don't think that can be effective across the board. I think my daughter is a freshman and she has chronic headaches. It's important that she's be able to get a hold of me throughout the day so I can help her. She's not texting during class. Her teachers have policies in place that they have created that work for them. And so day to day, she's able to communicate with me when she needs to, but she's also able to work within her teacher's constraints to pay attention in class. And I think that works really well for the high school students. The middle school, they're not allowed to have cell phones. They have them in their bags, but they're off. And I don't hear a lot of kids complaining about that. It's important for them, some kids to have them, but parents are working, after school sports, to be able to communicate with their parents. I think that that's something that we've become sort of dependent on. And I don't think that that's something that will go away. Elementary school kids, they don't bring their phones to school. That's not something that happens, whether they do that outside, that's a parent decision, whether your child has a phone or access to those devices, that's a personal decision.
The next question is, how do you plan to attract and retain teachers for special education and dual language programs? And that question will go first to Megan.
We talked a little bit about retaining teachers. We talked about making our schools a place that people want to live. We live in such a beautiful location. Central Oregon is gorgeous. People want to come here. They want their children to go to schools in Sisters. So the special education teachers, English language teachers, we want them in our community, and we need to make this place, sell it in a way that make them want to come here and to stay here and to send their kids here. So by doing some of the amazing things we're already doing, by low class sizes, by great administration, by beautiful facilities, amazing programming from ECOS to IE to amazing field trip opportunities we have. These are the things that will help bring in, recruit, and retain high quality teachers across the board, not just special education and language learners.
And Edie, you're next.
It's important that we make everybody know that special education and English as a second language are important parts of a school district, a school system. And so those teachers need to be made to feel very welcome within whatever building they're in, wherever they are. And there needs to be money available to provide for them to be able to teach in our district. Hopefully maybe with more opportunities for them, if we find ways to make housing more affordable so that they can live here, but mainly making sure that people become trained as special ed instructors and English as second language teachers, and know that they have a very important place in the school district as a primary part of this situation.
Emily?
So I am not an expert in retaining and hiring teachers, but I know that there's a lot of people in the school and the administration that are. So as a school board member, what I would do is reach out to those people that know what the challenges are, know what those struggles are, know what those barriers are for recruiting, training, and holding on to teachers. And ask them, what are some strategies and things that you can think of that would help this? You know, like I said, we have to rely on the expertise that exists in our community, and that's where I would go. So I would go back to the school, the administrators, and ask them what those, you know, how to remove those barriers and work on the opportunities.
The next question, which will go to, I'll go to Edie first, is, do you agree with the Trump administration executive order removing DEI, that is diversity, equity, and inclusion, and boys and girls sports, and Governor Kotek's refusal to comply?
I'm not sure whether I agree or not. I do think that, I think that, diversity and equity and all that should be a part of everything. We need to be able to be inclusive of everybody who is a part of our community. As far as the ability for and sports and competition, I think we really do need to take into consideration the difference in abilities, and we need to make it fair for everybody around, not just trying to figure out something that is set. I think that fairness is the most important thing to be thinking in this, and decisions need to be made around that.
Emily, you're next on that question.
So I think this is a very complex issue with a lot of things that, you know, people are very, very attached emotionally to both sides of this issue. I think that we as a community deeply value equity and inclusion, and I think we see it in the ways that we talk about our belong. You know, we have a long class, we have a long period, we want kids to feel like they have a place. And I support that. So I think, again, like I mentioned before, that we need to look inside, and instead of using inflammatory language or getting on this side of the issue or that side of the issue, I think that it's most important that we hold the values that we have decided as a community and as a school, and try not to, you know, pull one way or the other. I honestly think that wild swings in funding or, you know, the values of our nation are very difficult for communities to know what to do, what's coming next. So that's very, very hard. And I think that we have to acknowledge those things, and that there will be implications to our communities from that. But again, turning inward into our community and our space in school and saying, we believe in equity, we believe in fairness, we want kids to find a place to belong, and we know that as a community, we can have conflict, we can talk about it, we can hear different opinions, and then we can come up with a way forward.
I believe that public education is for every student, the whole student. The goal is for students to show up completely and fully who they are. And every student has the right to see themselves in education. I also believe that any athlete that wants to play should be able to play, period.
Okay. And Megan, this next question will start with you. As a school board member, how would you work to advance sustainability and climate action throughout the entire organization and help inspire the next generation of environmental stewards?
I think we're doing a great job of that right now. I think ECOS and IEE are amazing programs that are teaching our students real-time ecology, sustainability. It's an amazing program. I think you also have our biology students who are they're out there looking at, bird nests, and they're actively engaging with our community. It's remarkable. We have third graders that are releasing fish into Wenches Creek. Those are the kinds of programs that will help create good stewards moving forward. And that's the kind of thing that we need to continue, because if we're going to keep this beautiful place that we live, we need to be able to share that and share how we can teach the kids how to do that and how to move forward and what they need to do to ensure that this beautiful place we call home stays beautiful.
Emily?
So I agree, I think we're doing a really good job of place-based learning and showing our students, science is, I went to school for plant pathology and biology, and I think it's really important that we have that grounding in science. I think that, sustainability is a hard thing, and it's choices that we make every day. So I think it's important, not just in these glamorous, wonderful, amazing programs, but in the things that we're teaching our students to do every day. Compost food waste, reduce food waste, recycle, turn off the lights when there's no one in a room. Those small things, I think, as far as sustainability really add up. And I think if we as adults and families, really show by our own actions that these things are important, and we put those at the top of the list, that our students will learn from that. It's one thing to say it, and it's another thing for them to witness us doing these things, and so I think it's really important that we show them both through these really fun experiences, like releasing fish and going on ecos trips, but also just in those more mundane, everyday kind of sustainability efforts that we can take that maybe aren't quite as fun.
Well, if I could, I'd like to echo what both of them have said, because absolutely, both the everyday things and also our wonderful programs we already have in our program, in our district, such as the Feed the Table and the opportunities for kids at all levels for involved in that is absolutely incredible. Those are the things I think that highlight our district. One of the reasons I ran again is also because of the new opportunities coming up on land that we own, and the opportunities for more outdoor education and more eco-friendly programs that we can have on land that is already part of our district, and for us to utilize that in many, many different ways. The kids are just going to really benefit as we go forward with plans for that. And to me, that's one of the most exciting pieces of being part of our school district, is following up and seeing what happens in the areas of the environment and how we help the kids understand what that means to them and how they can have an impact on it.
Thank you, Edie. And Emily, you'll start the next question, which is, what specific steps have you taken in the past, or will you take in the future as a member of the school board to advance justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion while actively investing in improving outcomes for students of color, LGBTQ+ students, non-native English speakers, low-income students, and students belonging to other marginalized identities?
Wow, that was a mouthful.
Indeed it was.
Yes. So,
And part of it was addressed in the previous question, so take that in whatever direction you choose.
yes, so, again, diversity and inclusion and making our kids feel like they have a place and they belong is incredibly important. Again, like I said, I work in public health. We do a lot about reaching out and trying to meet people where they're at. So I think that part of this is finding families and asking them what they need to help their students succeed is a really important part of that, and asking students what they need to succeed. As far as drawing people in, I think it can be really hard. I mean, look at this room, there's not a whole lot of diversity probably in this room, but we can think of diversity of thought and, that inclusive place where we can ask people what they need to bring them in.
And Edie, you're next on that.
Communicating with parents and the community, finding out who actually is here, and making sure everybody is included in everything that we do. and adapting where we need to so that if there are barriers, we can definitely get rid of those barriers. And just really looking at the entire student body communication, or student body population, and working with the superintendent to see what we can do and what is needed, and having good dialogue on the school board about those things. I think that's where we need to ask questions and find out exactly what do we need, where are our gaps, and what do we need to do to take care of them.
I think active listening, reaching out to our principals, our counselors, our teachers to find out what our students need is the fastest way to find the students that might need help. I think our society as a whole is better when we're diverse, when we're equitable, and when we're inclusive. And I think that identifying students that might need extra help, we have great systems in place already, whether it's the Sister School Foundation, there's access and contact that we can have within the district already to help provide those students with support. It's a matter of identifying them. I think we also, having representation matters. Whether it's teachers that speak Spanish to be able to communicate with the parents that maybe don't speak English. That's important. Seeing yourself in the schools is critical for students to feel like they belong. And I think that's what we can do to help move forward and welcome those families into our community.
Okay, we've run through the slate of provided questions, so we'll move into closing remarks. And each of you have 2 minutes, and Megan, you're up.
Okay. Thank you all for being here. Your presence here is invaluable, and I'm grateful that you've taken the time out of your evening to support our schools. Our educational systems are facing real challenges in the coming years. We have a very strong foundation, and faculty and staff are top-notch. We must continue to prioritize the programming and culture that makes Sisters some of the best in the state. Sister schools some of the best in the state. I want to use my education and my experience to help Sister School face these challenges and to move us into the future. I believe that I have the skills and experience to be an effective board member. Thank you.
Okay.
So again, thank you all for being here, and I learned a lot by listening to the questions and the concerns of our community. I am only in my own little bubble, and I only have the experiences I have and the interactions that I have as a parent. I think those are valuable, and I think that the things that I bring to the table are a really good fit for a school board member. I am looking forward to the opportunity to serve our community in a different way, and I'm hopeful that you'll vote for me.
And Edie, last word to you.
And thank you all for being here. It's just really special to look out and see so many people I do know. And I have thoroughly enjoyed the 5 years that I have been on the board. Probably what I enjoy the most is hearing teachers come and share what they're doing, having kids come and share what they're doing. I just get very excited about the things that are actually happening in our classrooms. My background, I think, gives me a unique perspective of knowing parents of young children. I've taught in elementary schools. I have been the director of a children's camp, and also not only did we have kids, we had families, and so I have taught in college. So my entire life has been spent in some way in education, and through all of that, I have probably become more educated than those that I have educated. I have learned so very much, but I am excited about the possibility of perhaps serving another term for the city of, for our school district. It has been one of my most enjoyable things that I have done over my many years. Thank you.
So thank you to the candidates for participating in the forum. And thank you for throwing your hat in the ring. It's an extraordinary responsibility to step up to, and so thank you for being willing to do so. And thank you for coming out. Remember that your vote is your voice. Ballots are mailed today, April 30th. And you'll need to make sure that you get your ballots postmarked by Election Day, which is May 20th, so that your voice can be heard. The recording of this session will be available on the League of Women Voters of Deschutes County website and on their YouTube page. And you can share that with your friends. For more information about all of the candidates, visit vote411.org. And thanks everybody for being here.
Thank you.